ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pittman's Pit. I am your host, Jonathon, and I'm going to be giving you today, the AEW Revolution 2023 review for this channel. This show was phenomenal. From top to bottom, it had great matches, awesome performances, it had a lot of the right booking decisions in my opinion, and it set the table for what's going to be the future of AEW for the rest of the year. I can't think of many complaints at all about the show from start to finish. It all started off with Ricky Starks facing off one-on-one against Chris Jericho. This has a great story behind it, with Jericho trying to avoid a rematch with Ricky Starks after Starks has beaten him before, and using his Jericho Appreciation Society, he's been a thorn in the side of Starks for months now. It all culminated in this match where Ricky Starks finally got to get his hands on Jericho. Back and forth. This match had me excited for the whole time. There were great moves, great athleticism, and Ricky Starks showed why, even though I've been a little bit iffy on him at first when he was with Team Taz, he showed in this match exactly why he's a main event player and why he should be a future world champion. I don't know about when, but he should be soon. The match ended after Ricky Starks finally defeated Chris Jericho, being one of very few men that I can think of to actually beat him twice. I don't know what Jericho's gonna do from here, if the storyline's gonna continue, or if Ricky Starks is gonna go on to someone else from now on. But we need to start really ramping Starks up. He's a future star, and he's going to be world champion really, really soon. I think a lot sooner than people think. Next up, we had Jungle Boy Jack Perry going one-on-one in a grudge match they labeled as the Final Burial. Essentially, this was a casket match against Christian Cage. Now, Christian used to manage Jack Perry and his former tag team partner, Luchasaurus, then turned on them, betrayed them, made Luchasaurus betray Jack Perry at one point, and essentially mocked, berated, and tried to take everything away from Jungle Boy for months now. Over and over and over, Jack Perry has been trying to get his hands on Christian, trying to give Christian his comeuppance. But it all culminated in this basically casket match labeled the Final Burial, where these two wanted to rip into each other so bad that they weren't gonna stop until one of them was buried alive, essentially. This match was rough, it was gritty, it was not technical at all. This was just a flat-out fight. It felt like not a wrestling match, but just two people in a fight. And I loved that. At one point, they even used a shovel. They were absolutely phenomenal in this match, up until the point that Jungle Boy Jack Perry finally hit a concerto on Christian. Ironic, considering that was his signature calling card when he was a tag team with Christian, Edge and Christian. That was absolutely poetic that would be how it ended, and you could just see in Jungle Boy's face that this rivalry had pushed him to a place that he didn't want to go. He did not want to become this person that gets this violent and just spiteful is the only word for it. But Christian pushed his buttons too far, even mentioning Jungle Boy's mother at one point. And that kind of struck me in the heart right there. I was with Jungle Boy in that point. You mentioned my mom, and next thing you know, all bets were off. I might not go to this point, but like it's the easiest way to take me off, honestly. So I was more than happy to see Jungle Boy hit that concerto, stuff Christian in the casket, and while it was a little hokey how the freaking casket just speed dropped into the pit, I thought that was a little bit hokey, but it got the job done. So I'm looking forward to see where this goes. I don't know what they're gonna do with either of these. Is this gonna be the end of the feud? I think it is, because once you bury a guy alive, I don't see where you go from there. So maybe they'll have Jack Perry versus maybe Wardlow. I'd like to see that match. And as for Christian, I'd like to see him attach himself to somebody else, manage somebody else, and go on to try and be more of a manager from here on. Because as great as he is as a wrestler, he's one of the best of all time, in my opinion. One of the most underrated technicians of all time. I think he has more wisdom to impart as the guy that's on the sidelines of the ring, coaching up other people. I think he has more to contribute that way as an on-screen personality. Being that mouthpiece and cutting in and being a heel, a bad guy, for the people that he represents. I think that's what you need to do in that case. But we'll have to see where it goes from here, and I'm excited too. Next up, we have an absolute carnival of a match. And I mean that in the best way possible. I loved it. This was the House of Black versus the Elite. I absolutely loved this match. I've been a fan of the House of Black ever since they first became a group. Even before they brought Brody King on board, I was a huge fan of Buddy Matthews and especially Malachi Black. I love how he makes every single move and every single word that you see from him matter. He doesn't do anything needlessly. He can do all that acrobatic stuff that fans like. He can be a brawler. He can be a smarmy, manipulative heel. He can be anything you need him to be, but he doesn't do any of it without a purpose. He does it all with intent. And that's something I think is missing in a lot of people in professional wrestling these days. A lot of people want to be that cool bad guy. They want to be that bad guy that, oh, I'm gonna boo him, but I actually like this guy. And they want to do all the spot fests. Those are all well and great. I grew up with that. So I have a soft spot for it. But I think we're getting to the point in professional wrestling, in my opinion, where too many people are trying to do the same style. And I think when you have a group like Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King, the House of Black, where they can go against this team like the Elite, who's basically the epitome of what I just said, that ultimate, spot upon spot upon spot style. It's a recipe for magic. I absolutely loved this match from start to finish. I love that you had so many false finishes, and at one point I really thought the Elite were going to win. Just because they are, very well liked by fans, as they should be. They're phenomenal. But I wasn't really thinking that my team, the House of Black, was going to win. Then, lo and behold, I should have known. In the end, the house always wins. Also, before I move on, props to Julia Hart for taking that absolutely sick V-trigger from Kenny Omega. That sound of like his knee, just bam, it was gnarly. I respect the hell out of her so much for taking that. Props to everyone in this match, and ultimately, the house always wins. The House of Black are your new AEW Tag Team Trios Champions. I don't know what's gonna happen from here, as that's the thing I love about AEW. As I've said multiple times about multiple storylines, you never know what's gonna happen. But I'll tell you what I want to see happen. Reign of Terror. Absolute reign of terror. I want to see the House of Black just destroy team upon team upon team. I want to see them lay destruction at their wake. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. I can't wait to see where they go from here and the matches that we get. Rematch of Death Triangle versus House of Black, please? Can we please get that for the Trios Tag Team Championships? What better, these guys versus a returning CM Punk and maybe team them with FTR, possibly? I don't know who you want to send at these guys, but I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. They are phenomenal, and I am so happy to see the House Black finally get their big moment. Next after that was another very shocking moment within a match that featured Jamie Hayter, Saraya, and Ruby Soho. I'm a huge fan of all three of these women. This was for the AEW Women's Championship held by Jamie Hayter. And honestly, I loved it. These women absolutely stiffed the hell out of each other. They pulled 0 punches, as expected. There were so many, spots where they got suplexed on their neck. I guess we know Saraya's neck injury is all healed up now because she took a freaking dragon suplex where she got dumped on the back of her neck, and she also took a freaking a lariat, knocked her right in the head and landed right in the back of her neck. A few times I was cringing, like, yeah, she was injured, she almost had to retire, maybe ease up on the neck stuff, but she got through the match perfectly fine and walked away fine. So I apparently was worrying for nothing. But I am glad that she was okay. Because seeing her return was phenomenal. Seeing her heel turn was even more phenomenal. And now her current work, I'm loving it. I do wish they'd kind of tell a little bit more about what this story that Saraya and Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker is supposed to be, because this whole AEW Originals versus Outsiders thing, I mean, I kind of get it, but they never really explained what the beef is. So I can only assume it basically, well, we were here the whole time, y'all just walked in, and now you're trying to take all our spots kind of thing. I think that's what it is, but they never really explained what the hell the beef is. So, I want to get behind it, but I'm going to need a little bit more story before I can really sink my teeth into that storyline. Nevertheless, it was Jamie Hayter who walked away from the victory in this after pinning Ruby Soho. And after the match, Ruby lifts Jamie Hayter's arm after saving her from an attack by Saraya and Tony Storm, but ultimately that was nothing but a ruse. Turns out Ruby Soho is now aligned with freaking Saraya and Tony Storm. Ruby Soho is now a heel aligned with them. He laid her out with Destination Unknown, which is by far one of the sickest finishers, in the AEW women's division. It's absolutely a brutal move, and I loved seeing that match. I love what these three are gonna do. The only thing I wish is, maybe it's just me that I kind of dig their alt rock, kind of punk rock look, and they fit so well together aesthetically. I don't want to boo these three. I want them to be the good guys. But yet, by attacking people from behind and after matches, they want these three to be booed, and yet I just don't wanna. Like, can you give me a reason to? But nonetheless, I have a feeling this is gonna build up to Blood and Guts, where the AEW Outsiders are gonna face off against AEW Originals in a Blood and Guts match. I have a feeling that match is gonna be phenomenal. I cannot wait to see it. But again, I want this build to kind of pick up now. I want them to give me a reason to really sink my teeth into the rivalry they're trying to build. I have full faith that it can happen. I want to get to the point now. Next up, now we get to the good stuff. This match was so brutal. They used spots that I didn't think were possible. Hangman Page, Jon Moxley, 2 words, Texas Death. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say about this match. It was barbed wire carnage. This was insane. They used a fork in this match. A freaking fork. Jon Moxley takes a freaking fork and stabs freaking Hangman Page in the forehead with it. He's already bleeding by that point. They had people getting slammed through barbed wire boards, freaking wrapping body parts in barbed wire. This was brutal at times. Honestly, there were a couple of points in the match I visibly cringed and actually thought to myself that it's a good thing I ate earlier before I sat down and watched this damn match. It's a good thing I wasn't eating anything when I was trying to watch this thing. If I had, I would have got nauseous, honestly. I love this hardcore CZW, ECW type matches, but damn, they are not for the faint at heart. We had freaking cement blocks come into play in this match. Freaking Jon Moxley stuffed Hangman Page's hand between a pair of cement blocks and stomped on it, then stomped his head through a cement block, a callback to a feud between Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins when Moxley was Dean Ambrose in WWE. Hell, they had freaking Hangman Page at one point wrap his torso in barbed wire and do a moonsault. This match, there's so many spots that were violent and gruesome in it. I honestly can't get through them all and do this match justice. I honestly, if you watch any match between any competitors on this show, let it be this one, honestly. That main event was phenomenal. But if hardcore wrestling is your thing, that's one that you need to see. Just for the fact of the insanity that ensued in this match. Hell, the finish was Hangman Page basically taking his name literally. He got a freaking metal, steel chain and basically tried to hang Jon Moxley against the ropes. I don't know what the hell I just watched, but I loved every second of it, and I think I might be a little insane for that. Nonetheless, Hangman Page comes away with the victory. It does nothing to hurt Jon Moxley. He's gonna be fine. Well, as far as his character, I don't know physically how the hell he's gonna be fine after that. But, damn, hats off to both of them. My mind was blown. I genuinely am speechless after that. I've never seen somebody straight up Abdullah the Butcher fork attack a guy and that not be the end of the match. Jeez. These guys got a freaking screw loose. That's all I can say about that match. After that insanity, the cool-down match was for the TNT Championship. Wardlow versus Samoa Joe. Two big brutes. Two big, athletic, strong men going after each other in a clash of the Titans. This was epic. This was great. Although I wasn't expecting the ending. I gotta say, I love Wardlow and I'm glad he won here. But I'm a little surprised at that. Because they just gave Samoa Joe the championship after derailing Darby Allin's title reign for it. And I still find that a little bit questionable. Why not just have Samoa Joe retain the title in his match if he's only gonna just win the title right back against Darby? Well, in any case, you had Samoa Joe get in this match as TNT champion and ultimately pass out to his own move, the Coquina Clutch, that now they're just calling a rear naked choke. It's the Coquina Clutch. I thought that Wardlow was going to win the title back because it kind of seemed like that was where the story was going. But to do it by beating him with his own move, especially with what would happen later, I think it should have been a powerbomb and a pinfall, personally. Either way, Wardlow winning here was the right decision, even if I don't like the way it happened. Ultimately, Wardlow walks out with the championship. He was adored by the fans, and we're gonna have to see where he comes up next. Possibly a rematch for Darby Allin, getting a shot at the title that he lost, or I don't know what else you could do with him. I honestly thought that he was going to go after the World Championship soon, and I do think that should happen, but apparently they got more to do with him after this TNT Championship run, so we'll have to see where that goes. Next up was a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match for the AEW Tag Team Championships. You had Danhausen and Orange Cassidy versus The Acclaimed versus Jeff Jarrett, hate that guy, and Jay Lethal, less hate for that guy, versus the Gun Club. So, The Acclaimed were absolutely loved in this match, as they should be. Their whole Scissor Me tag team gimmick that they've got going, it's red hot right now. They are absolutely on fire. And I wasn't expecting one spot in particular. They had Max Caster, this absolute insane menace, hit an angle slam on Jay Lethal in front of Jeff Jarrett, who, for those of you that don't know, Jeff Jarrett's wife, Karen, was formerly married to Kurt Angle. I don't like digging into people's personal life, but you don't even have to dig. This is basically common wrestling knowledge at this point. They even made a storyline out of it at one point. And he basically angle slammed Jay Lethal right in front of Jarrett. That was absolute. Like, Max, I love you, but you're wrong for that. You're kind of wrong for that. In any case, the Guns somehow retain their AEW Tag Team Championships, and I was a little confused at first why they did it, and then you hear their promo, they're talking about, oh, we beat everybody there is to beat, there's nobody left to beat, and then you hear FTR return. Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood. They came down to the ring. They beat the ever-loving hell out of the Guns. And I absolutely love that we're finally gonna put the belts on FTR. That's where we're going, right? That better be where we're going, right? They've been denied way too long. They should have been champs again by now. Hell, when they had every other tag team championship, minus WWE, except for the AEW championships, you should have put them on there then. But in any case, we're doing it now, better late than never, and I'm just happy to see it. The one thing that kind of bugged me about this Fatal 4-Way is there were disqualifications in this match. That kind of confuses me a little bit. So, in a usual Fatal 4-Way match, you'd have all four competitors in the ring at the same time, and there's no disqualifications. But for some reason, when Max Caster went to hit Jeff Jarrett with a guitar, the ref stopped him. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm in, say, a three-way match, and I go to hit one opponent with a steel chair, first off, would never happen. I'd suck as a wrestler, I'll admit that. But let's just, go with it for now. I hit one of my opponents with a steel chair. Why should the other opponent lose for something that they had no part in? So, I don't really understand why there were disqualifications. If you wanted to have disqualifications, then this should have been an elimination match so that the other teams who weren't involved in that spot wouldn't get, screwed over, basically, for something that they weren't even part of. So, yeah, that was just a little confusing to me. AEW maybe fix that next time. That either make it no disqualification or an elimination match so that the remaining teams who weren't involved in the disqualification can still continue the match. So, yeah, that was a little confusing. But ultimately, yeah, it's all going to be about FTR winning the championships down the road. Probably at All Out. And after that match, we had the main event, which is probably one of my favorite matches of all time. It was MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the man who calls himself the Devil, defending the AEW World Championship versus Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. I was a little disappointed that Bryan Danielson didn't come out to his final countdown ROH theme from when he was in Ring of Honor, because a lot of the feud leading up to this had a lot of callbacks to ROH. He even used his "you're gonna get your effing head kicked in" catchphrase that he used to use back then. The fans used to chant that whenever he was in a match in ROH, because he lived by that, basically. If you were gonna get in the ring with him, you were gonna get your head kicked in, basically. So, this match was phenomenal, even without that, though. It didn't really need it now. Now that I think about it, I was disappointed at the time. Didn't need the theme. These guys, for 60 whole minutes, they produced wrestling artistry. I might do a solo video after this review of why this match is, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Iron Man matches of all time. It had everything that any kind of wrestling fan could want. It had brawling spots. It had hardcore spots. You like blood? MJF freaking busted himself open hard way with a headbutt and was gushing, like, from his forehead here down past his chin, just full on crimson mask. The dude lost so much blood that by the end of the match, he needed an oxygen tank. It had technical spots. It had submissions. It had MJF being a classic old school heel, like an old school villain, where he just played to the crowd, insulted the crowd. He threw water on a kid, which was freaking awesome. Like, he's just the perfect jerk. He's the type of guy that I said that, honestly, he's the perfect villain. I hate that these days you have so many cool villains that are trying to win the crowd over with high spots. They're trying to be, oh, we'll boo him, but we really like him. MJF doesn't give a damn about that. He don't care. He wants you to hate him. So much to the point that even if you go to meet him at a meet and greet, he will be the same a-hole to you that he will to you if you go to an AEW show. He puts up the act that much that even if you see him in person, he'll do it. And I just absolutely love that. It reminds me of the old days when, like, heels didn't care about trying to get the fans to pop for them. They did things to try and get under the fans' skin because they wanted to be hated. I love MJF for that. He is truly the perfect villain and the perfect total package superstar. The way that I would put it is this. He pulls out the stops with everything that he's capable of, only rarely. He can do moonsaults. He can do elbow drops. He can do, bloody matches. But he saves that. Hell, he's only wrestled one other time this year. Because he wants, when you see him in the ring, to matter every single time. And those big performances that you pay to see him, he wants you to absolutely get your money's worth, even if he'd never let on that. And there were so many spots that I never thought I would see, including, like, we had a freaking headbutt spot that busted MJF open. We had him do a tombstone off the top rope. We didn't even get a fall for the first 45 minutes of the match, half hour or so. Like, they went a full half hour or more without even getting a pinfall in an Iron Man match where you could get as many as you want, and until the hour's up, you're not ending the match. So, I absolutely loved that the entire time they had everyone on the edge of their seats. There was also this other, less bloody but just as spectacular match, part of the match, sorry, where they were rolling around on the ring trying to pin each other. They had inside cradles. They were chain wrestling. They were doing everything in their power, and the ref was going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. And like you could tell the ref was getting freaking exhausted trying to keep up with him. And then they basically tumbleweeded around the ring in like this basically human sphere. It was wild. And then the clock gets to the point where it's ticking down. The match is at this point 3-3 because we had MJF score 2 pinfalls off of a low blow and get another one off of, I believe it was the tombstone spot. But I could be wrong. So much happened in this match, it's hard to keep straight personally. And Bryan Danielson, he got his off of a running knee, the disqualification off the low blow, and I believe he made MJF tap out once. Well, he made him tap out twice, but he did the second time as time was expiring, and this is where I got a little scared, because as the match is, I'm thinking, ending in a draw to extend the rivalry down to All Out or other events, or maybe a Blood and Guts, we get an image that I didn't like at all. I get that MJF is this hateable, detestable heel, but I gotta admit, I was a little bit worried for him. Like, we saw him, and he had an oxygen mask over his face. They were giving him oxygen because he'd bled that much throughout the match, and he'd exerted himself that much throughout the match. He needed oxygen. Ultimately, he was fine, and it was a ruse to get to something that happened later, because Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, gave us sudden death overtime. That match was not going to end in a draw, and thank God, because fans were chanting BS at it. Like, they were not happy at all. They wanted to see this match end in, an actual finish. Although I don't think they should have predicted the finish of what happened. I don't think anybody could have. MJF rolls out of the ring, grabs the oxygen tank that they just used to freaking, give him air, and bam, behind the ref back, he absolutely blasts Bryan Danielson in the face with it, gets in the ring, and he puts on the LeBell Lock, formerly known as the Yes Lock. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought he was going to do that. I'm fading, and then, fight back and get out of the hold. It's happened all the time in wrestling. And that did happen for a bit. But then Bryan Danielson, sorry, I keep calling him Daniel Bryan because I originally wanted him in WWE as Daniel Bryan, but Bryan Danielson tapped out to his own move, the label lock. He tapped out with the guy that calls himself the freaking devil proved it tonight. He freaking made Bryan Danielson tap out to his own move. What the hell? What's gonna happen at freaking Dynamite on Wednesday? What's gonna happen from here? You have Bryan Danielson tap out to his own move. I could not have predicted that, but freaking hats off to you. It takes a lot after how much wrestling I've seen over my life, because I've been watching since the 90s. So it takes a lot to actually drop my jaw these days. That one freaking did it. As soon as he tapped out, I'm like, what the blue hell did I just watch? And then you see MJF celebrating in the ring, saying, I'm the best in the world, I'm the best in the world. And I'm just thinking, okay, they're bringing Punk back at some point. But between now and when Punk comes back, because I don't see that happening until a pay-per-view, I don't know what's gonna happen next. Tonight was one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen in my life. Tonight, MJF proved why he is one of the best in the world. And whether us fans want to admit it or not, he proved why he's simply better than us, and we know it. Honestly, tonight was spectacular. From the start to that ending, I don't know what more I can say on it. All I know is this Wednesday night on Dynamite, I'm going to be glued to my television, and I'm going to be on the edge of my seat watching this to see what is going to happen next. But for now, I think I'm going to end this one here. That is it for this one. I am Jonathon, and I am going to thank you for watching. This has been Pittman's Pit, and I'd like to thank you all for dropping in. See you next time.